I don't know how many of you are college football fans, but we got the college football playoffs coming up. So I picked out a bracket. So I figured we'd go through it and decide. Pretty much just pick the winners, go through the bracket, and see who I think is going to win the national championship. Now I will say up front, I am a Texas A&M fan, so definitely got some bias there. I think it's ridiculous that Ole Miss is above us, but that's for another day. I'm not going to talk about that right now. I think that if I mean, the losing to Texas is gross, but I don't think that we should have dropped all the way to 7. I think that at minimum we should be 6. I could argue that we're at 5. Um, Oregon lost to Penn State, didn't they? Or who did Oregon lose to? Is their only loss Indiana? I think their only loss is Indiana, actually. So maybe not. Oregon can be there. I think first round, I don't foresee very many. I'm not picking Oklahoma. That was a mistake. I don't foresee very many upsets in the first round. I think Alabama is going to handle Oklahoma pretty easily. I think A&M versus Miami. I honestly think it'll be a close game. I think Miami's good, but I do not trust Carson Beck. I trust Marcel Reed a lot more than I trust Carson Beck. I think Marcel Reed's going to get back to playing how he has all season and a lot less like he did against Texas. Against Texas, it was like the first drive of the game, and he twisted his ankle and got hurt. So I think that played a lot into his performance. Plus, we have so much time to prepare that I think A&M's just going to come out and play good. Ole Miss versus Tulane, that one's a pretty simple game. I don't think Tulane's going to have much of a chance. It's cool they were able to make the playoffs. Even without a coach, though, I think Ole Miss is going to handle them pretty easily. Oregon versus James Madison is kind of the same situation. Oregon's a good football team. James Madison's a good story. And I think Oregon is going to probably put up 50 or 60 on them and win by a bunch of points. The next round is where it gets a lot more interesting, though. You have Indiana at Alabama. I think that is going to be a pretty close game. Alabama is potentially the highest ceiling and the lowest floor team. They're so volatile. Like when they played against Georgia, they looked horrible, obviously against Florida State, but then they have weeks where they look like absolute world beaters. That being said, I think Indiana is a lot more consistent, so I'm going to go with Indiana over Alabama there. Now, this game is where I might show a little bit of bias, but my reasoning here is it's going to be in Dallas. It's going to be in Texas A&M's backyard. It's going to be a home game for Texas A&M, basically. I'm worried about the Texas A&M offense versus Ohio State's defense. Ohio State's defense is absolutely disgusting, but I think A&M's defense can keep them in the game, and I think it could be a really close game that A&M just edges out. So I'm going to pick A&M win this in a big upset. Georgia versus Ole Miss. I mean, Ole Miss doesn't have a coach. They do, but they lost Lane Kiffin. Um, I just don't foresee a world where Ole Miss it comes and beats Georgia. I would be absolutely shocked. I think Georgia is a very good football team. Texas Tech versus Oregon. Now this game I could see going either way. Texas Tech's defense is disgusting. Oregon's offense is explosive. I think if it's a close game, it's going to be Tech that pulls it out. I think if Oregon can come out and be on fire, their defense can stop Texas Tech's offense at the beginning. They can jump out to a big lead and maybe coast to a victory. But I think if it stays close, it's going to be Texas Tech's ball game to lose. And then the semifinals, Indiana versus Texas Tech. That's another interesting one. It's two very good defenses matching up. I am going to go with Indiana. I think they are the most complete team in the country. I think Fernando Mendoza is an absolute baller. I think the Indiana's defense is amazing, and I think Kurt Segnetti is potentially the best coach in college football right now. So I think they just have too many edges on Texas Tech to be able to lose that game. I think Texas Tech would have to play their absolute best game, and Indiana would kind of have to shit the bed to be able to lose that one. Georgia versus Texas A&M. Now this one, as much as I want to be a homer and pick A&M, I don't think we match up with Georgia very well. I think that our run defense might get exposed against a team like Georgia. Um, and I don't know if I trust our offense to be able to just outscore Georgia. So I think I'm gonna have to. This is where A&M's magical season comes to an end, unfortunately. Now, as a fan, I will still be happy with a semifinals appearance. That's way better than anything they've had in my lifetime. So I will be perfectly fine with that. And so that brings us to Indiana versus Georgia in the national championship. This is another one that could be a very interesting game. I think it would be a close game. Again, two incredible defenses matching up. A couple pretty good quarterbacks. I think Mendoza's the better quarterback for sure. Indiana, I think, would be the favorite. So I might pick a little bit of an upset here. I think Georgia takes it. Um, Ultimately, I just think that Indiana would have to play a pretty perfect game. Mendoza would have to play amazing against Georgia to be able to beat them. I think that Georgia's just overall size is going to be the difference. Their physicality playing in the SEC week in and week out. I think that might be the difference that helps Georgia beat Indiana there. So this is my final bracket. I think it's going to be pretty accurate. The only thing, I mean, a lot of people are going to hate on this pick, A&M over Ohio State. I feel like I felt like I had to pick an upset, and I could definitely see, especially with it being in Dallas, I could definitely see a world where A&M upsets Ohio State. But outside of that, I mean, I don't think I picked too many upsets. You could argue Georgia beating Indiana is definitely an upset, but I don't think people are going to argue that too much. And outside of that, I think Texas Tech versus Oregon would be a good game. That one's a toss up, but yeah, I think that's my bracket. I think I'm pretty confident in this bracket, so we'll see how it plays out.